If you enjoyed this chilling story, don't forget to subscribe to. Before I start, I need to make something clear. This really happened to me. It's not a dream, not a fuzzy memory I made up as a kid. This is something I saw with my own eyes. I was maybe 4 or 5 years old when it started. I used to sleep in my parents' bedroom back then. I had a small bed of my own tucked into a corner of the room, not too far from theirs. I can't remember exactly when it all began, but what I do remember, what I still remember with perfect clarity, was the shadow. It wasn't like a normal shadow. It was too dark, too thick, a patch of black above my parents' bed, right on the ceiling. At first I thought maybe it was the light playing tricks, or maybe a trick of my eyes in the dark. But it was always there, night after night. And the longer I looked at it, the more it seemed to shift. Eventually it changed. The blackness softened, almost like it dissolved into something else, into a mist, white like fog, but somehow still heavy looking, like it had weight. It hovered directly above where my parents lay. It didn't move, didn't stretch or expand. It just hung there, like a little cloud glued to the ceiling. I never told anyone about it. For some reason, even as a child, I felt like it wasn't something I should talk about, like saying it out loud would make it real. So I just watched it. I got used to it, in a weird way. It became part of my nights, a strange little secret I didn't understand. One night, I woke up suddenly. I didn't know why at first, no noise, no dream that I could remember. Just this feeling that something was wrong. I was lying on my side, facing the wall, and there was this awful sensation crawling up my back, like something was looking at me, like something knew I was awake. I turned slowly, already terrified before I even saw anything. I looked at my parents' bed. The white cloud was gone, but something else was there. This time, the mist was red. Not just red, deep, pulsing, almost glowing. It looked like it had veins running through it, like it was alive. I couldn't breathe. It was in the same place the white one always hovered, but the feeling it gave off was the complete opposite. I felt like something horrible was happening, like something was about to break through the air. My chest felt tight. My stomach churned. I couldn't move. I just stared at it. And the more I stared, the more it seemed to pulse, slow, rhythmic beats, like it had a heartbeat. And it was angry. I started crying. Not loud sobbing, just quiet tears. I didn't want to wake it, whatever it was. But eventually my mom stirred and turned on the light. The red cloud vanished instantly. She came over and asked why I was crying. I told her what I saw. I described the cloud, the red glow, the feeling in my stomach. She gave me this half smile and told me not to worry, that it was probably a bad dream. But it wasn't a dream. I knew it wasn't. Still, she let me sleep between her and my dad that night. I was too scared to go back to my little bed. I remember lying there, staring up at the ceiling, afraid the red would come back. But it didn't. Not that night. From then on, I started paying attention, and I noticed something I didn't expect. When the white mist was there, everything in the house felt peaceful. My parents were calm. They laughed. They kissed me good morning. The days after the white cloud were filled with warmth. But after the red one showed up, it was always the same. My mom would be in a terrible mood. My dad wouldn't talk much. They'd fight over stupid things, burnt toast, spilled juice, silence that turned into tension. I don't know how I noticed it so clearly at that age, but I did. And I noticed something else. The red one didn't just hover anymore. It watched. I could feel it watching. Not always my parents. Sometimes it felt like it had turned toward me, like it knew I was aware of it. Sometimes I pretend to be asleep, just to see what it would do. And I swear to you, the air would change. It would get heavier. Still, like time was frozen, but it never moved. It never made a sound. It just was. The nights dragged on, and I became more and more afraid to fall asleep. My mom never saw anything. No one ever did. When I told her about the red and white clouds again, she smiled and told me it was just my imagination, that I'd watched too many cartoons or something. But it wasn't just in my head. Sometimes I could feel the energy before even opening my eyes. If I felt calm, I knew the white cloud was there. If I woke up anxious or nauseous, I knew it was the red one. It became my own little language. White meant safety. Red meant fear. And yet no one believed me. The more I tried to explain it, the more people laughed or looked concerned. Eventually, I stopped talking about it, but I never stopped seeing them. Years passed, and they stopped visiting so frequently. But I remember every single night they came. I remember how it felt. The silence, the pressure, the dread. I'm older now. It's been a long time since I've seen either of them, but I never forgot what I saw, what I felt. Sometimes I still lie awake at night and look at the ceiling, half expecting the white mist to be there, glowing softly like it used to. Sometimes I even hope it is, because that one never made me feel afraid. But if the red one comes back, I don't know what I'd do. I never found an explanation. I don't think I ever will. Maybe it was something spiritual. Maybe it was energy, residual from something I was too young to understand. Maybe those clouds weren't clouds at all, but something else. I just know this. They were real, and I saw them. If you enjoyed this chilling story, don't forget to subscribe to Beyond. I've never been the kind of person to chase ghost stories or talk about strange things. I've always been grounded, logical, especially back in the late 70s, when I worked for the state. At the time, I was in my early 30s, and some nights I'd end up working through until the early hours of the morning. It was winter, a cold, biting kind of cold that settles in your bones, something anyone who's lived in Rio Grande do Sul knows all too well. That particular night, the air felt heavier than usual, like the cold was trying to keep you from breathing. Around 2 or 3 in the morning, I offered a ride to a co-worker who lived in a neighborhood far from our office. I didn't mind. The roads were silent, almost calming in their emptiness. But when I returned and went to park the car, something was different. The parking lot we used was wide, enclosed by tall corrugated zinc sheets. Inside, there was a wooden barrier, just an old tapium, that divided the lot from an adjacent work zone. It wasn't solid. There was a gap at the bottom, maybe 30 centimeters high, just enough that you could see if someone, or something, was walking on the other side. I pulled in slowly, parked in my usual spot near the dark corner, where one of the streetlights had gone out weeks ago. I turned off the engine, stepped out, and shut the door behind me. That's when I first felt it, that immediate, unshakable sense that I wasn't alone. At first, I thought maybe I was just tired. Long shifts will do that to you. But the moment I started walking toward the exit, the feeling got stronger. My steps echoed on the hard-packed ground, and for a second, that was the only sound. Then, something else joined in, another set of footsteps. Not loud, not fast, just pacing me. I slowed down and turned my head slightly toward the wooden divider. Through the gap underneath, I saw it, feet. but not standing still. They were walking in sync with me, step for step, like a shadow trying to keep just enough distance not to be seen. My first thought was that someone had gotten locked in the service area, maybe a night shift worker or someone who had no business being there. But something about the movement was off. It was too smooth, too intentional, and no one should have been in that part of the property at that hour. It had been shut down for the night. The further I walked, the more disturbed I became. I paused to listen, and as I did, the feet on the other side paused too. I started moving again. So did they. I was trying to convince myself that there had to be a simple explanation. Maybe a stray dog. Maybe just my imagination. But the rhythm of those footsteps didn't match that of an animal. It mirrored mine exactly. Calculated. Deliberate. As I neared the center of the lot, I remembered that the wooden fence had a small section where the planks had fallen away, right near the most illuminated part of the area. I figured if I could reach it, I'd finally get a clear view of whoever, or whatever, was on the other side. I picked up my pace slightly, and sure enough, the figure did too. Still a few steps behind, still not revealing itself, but just enough for me to hear it, to know it was there. When I reached the gap, I paused beside it and turned my head, just enough to see into the other side, without making it obvious. And what I saw didn't make sense. They weren't feet at all. They were paws. Large, padded, dark-colored paws, moving with an eerie silence, like they were floating. I froze. Every hair on my body stood on end. My mouth went dry. My mind immediately tried to rationalize it. A big dog got in somehow. That's all. Just a dog. But deep down, I knew this wasn't a dog. It was too aware, too calculated. It wasn't just wandering, it was stalking. That's when it stepped into the light. I'll never forget what I saw. The animal, if I can even call it that, was large, covered in fur so dark it seemed to absorb the light around it. But what paralyzed me were its eyes. They glowed red. Not the usual light-reflecting eyes you see in cats or dogs at night. No, these eyes were burning, alive, focused directly on me. I stood completely still. I didn't even blink. It didn't growl, didn't bark. It just stared, unblinking. Those red eyes fixed on mine, as though it could read every thought in my head. It didn't look angry or aggressive, but it wasn't passive either. It looked aware, almost intelligent. There was a section of the divider where it could have easily slipped through. Nothing blocked it, but it never crossed over. It kept walking, pacing behind the barrier like it was guarding something, or testing me. Every time I tried to look away, I felt a pull, like those eyes were forcing me to stay focused on them. I don't know how long I stood there. Seconds. A full minute. Time lost all shape. My body screamed to run, but I couldn't move. Finally, I forced myself to look away, to start walking again. I kept my head forward, but I could still feel it. Watching. Even after I left the parking lot and crossed the empty street back toward the office building, I didn't look back. I couldn't. I was too afraid of what I might see, or not see. The eyes, their glow, that stare, it was imprinted in my mind. I could still feel them on me. Back inside the building, under the safety of fluorescent lights and concrete walls, I tried to tell myself that it was just a stray, a hallucination from exhaustion, a trick of the dark. But it never really worked. In the days that followed, I kept thinking about it. That lot had no nearby houses, no open spaces where animals could sneak in. I knew the area well. There was no reason for a dog like that to be there. And even if it had gotten in, why didn't it ever come closer? I never saw it again. Not once. But I still think about it, especially when I'm alone at night. That black shape behind the fence. Those eyes that burned like coals. I don't know what it was. I just know that it wasn't normal. And whatever it was, it wanted me to know I wasn't alone that night. And maybe I never truly was. If you enjoyed this chilling story, don't forget to subscribe to Beyond. I never thought I'd miss that old house. We lived there for 16 years, and by the time we left, it was falling apart. Cracked walls, old wiring, uneven floors. But every now and then, I catch myself thinking about it. Not out of nostalgia. More like unfinished business. Especially with that one room. We used to have a 2-bedroom place. Me, my sister, and my brother. Eventually, my parents decided to turn the garage into a 3rd bedroom. It wasn't a great setup. The floor wasn't even, and the walls felt hollow, like they could crumble if you leaned too hard. Still, it meant I wouldn't have to share a room anymore, so I didn't complain. That garage was where everything started. At first, it was small things. When I was alone at night, trying to fall asleep, I'd hear whispering. Not words exactly, just a soft hum of voices, like people talking in the next room. The thing is, there was no next room. The garage was isolated, sealed off from the rest of the house by a heavy wooden door. I told myself it was the pipes, or maybe something outside. But deep down, I already knew it wasn't. The worst night happened when my sister was out of town, and I had the room all to myself. I went to bed like usual, a bit later than I should have, phone in hand, scrolling until my eyes were too heavy to stay open. That night, the whispers were louder than usual, closer, still muffled, like someone was pressing their lips against the wall on the other side. I remember holding my breath, trying to catch a word, anything recognizable. Then nothing. Silence. But not the peaceful kind. The kind that feels wrong. Like the world paused to make space for something else. I shifted under the blanket, adjusting my legs, and that's when I felt it. A hand. Cold. Thin. Wrapping around my leg. Just above the ankle. Not yanking. Not scratching. Just holding. Every muscle in my body locked up. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. My mind raced through explanations. Maybe it was the blanket. Maybe a muscle twitch. But I knew it wasn't. I could feel the fingers. The pressure. The cold. I waited for footsteps, thinking maybe someone had come in. Nothing. Not even a creak from the steps outside. Just me and that hand. After what felt like hours, it let go. And almost immediately, the whispers came back. I didn't sleep that night. I just stared at the ceiling until the sun came up. The next morning, I asked my brother if we could switch rooms. He didn't ask why. At first, the new room felt safe. Smaller, closer to the rest of the family, with just a thin door separating me from the hallway. But it didn't take long for the whispers to find me again. Only now they came from outside. Late one night, I heard them faintly in the hallway. I got up, thinking it might be my sister talking on the phone. But the whispers weren't coming from her room. They were coming from the garage. I stood there, just outside the door we used to keep sealed shut, and listened. This time, I could almost make out the words. Something like, "Don't leave us. Why did you leave us here?" The door was locked. The light inside was off. But I felt it, something on the other side, aware that I was listening. From then on, I avoided that room entirely. Even walking past it made the hairs on my arms stand up. It didn't matter that my brother said he never heard anything. It didn't matter that we kept the door shut tight. Whatever was inside had followed me. Or maybe I'd brought it with me. I wish I could say it stopped when I moved out. College was supposed to be a fresh start. New apartment, new town. No old rooms or strange corners. But the disturbances came with me. At first, it was subtle. My keys would end up in places I didn't remember leaving them. My desk drawer, which I always kept shut, would be open when I came home. One night, I noticed that a small figurine of St. Michael I kept near the window had turned to face the wall. I figured maybe the cleaning lady bumped it, but then it happened again, and always the same way. Turned to face away from the light. Eventually, I stopped inviting people over, not because of the moving objects, but because I couldn't explain the noises. The whispers had changed. They were no longer behind walls. Now, they came from inside the apartment, from the kitchen when I was in the shower, from the hallway when I was trying to sleep. The worst was the voice. It was a man's voice, low, clear, and close. I was singing in the shower one afternoon, just out of habit, when I heard it. "Who's singing?" I stopped, soap still in my hands, water running, heart frozen. I waited. Nothing else. No footsteps. No doors. Just silence. When I got out, I checked every room. No one. The door was still locked. No missed calls. I lived alone. I should have left then, but I stayed. And it got worse. In the final few months before I left for good, the air in the apartment changed. Heavier. Like it didn't want me there anymore. One night, I got up for a glass of water and walked into the kitchen. The second I stepped in, I felt it. A presence. As if someone had just been standing by the sink. I could almost see her, an older woman, long hair, leaning slightly against the counter, staring out the window. She didn't move. She didn't speak. But I felt her there, like she'd left some part of herself behind. I stopped sleeping well. Doors would close by themselves. Things would fall without reason. I stopped singing in the shower. I still don't know what it was. Maybe something from that room. Maybe something I never should have ignored. All I know is that it never really left. Even now, in a new city, a new home, some nights, when everything is quiet and still, I swear I can hear it. A whisper, a voice, a question. Why did you leave us? If you enjoyed this chilling story, don't forget to subscribe to Beyond Fear and hit the bell icon so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. Here, you'll find more real stories filled with mystery, psychological horror, and the supernatural every week. Before you go, make sure to check out the 2 videos that just popped up in the end screen. I promise, they'll leave you with goosebumps. See you next time, if you dare.